Hello and good morning, and welcome to According to Courtney. I am Courtney West. I am the owner of Three Gems Birth Services. I'm a full spectrum doula, prenatal educator, placenta encapsulist, mental health. Not mental health. That's her next door. I work in maternal health, and I'm here to have these moments with you guys that According to Courtney's where we can have conversations that most times in our communities we don't get to have, and then sometimes it's going to be on maternal health, mental health, and something all in between. And today I'm so excited to have Miss Dr. Z in the house with us. Hello, Miss Zanita.
Hey, I'm so excited to be here. Listen, the last time I was in this space, in this chair, on this platform, I had the stress of hosting,
Hot.
a podcast segment. Now I just get to be present and answer questions and just go along with the conversation. So it's good to be on the other end, but even better to be on the other end with conversation with you, Courtney West.
Thank you so much. And
Yes.
good morning. And so I'm so happy to have you in the space. And I'm glad you brought that up because I wouldn't be here if it weren't for you and me sitting on this platform with you and being able to talk about Black maternal health. So I thank you and give you your flowers as always. And so,
Thank you.
so
Thank
glad
you.
to have you here. And so to open up the space, I love to ask three questions so everyone gets to know who you are and how you are. So I like to ask, what's your name? Meaning, like, what's your name, who you come from? Where are you from? Where's your ancestor and your origin and how you got to be here? And then three, what are your intentions in the space today?
Okay. Well, let me say good morning, Sophia. I saw you say good morning. Good morning, Sophia. My name is Zanita Ellison. I am a licensed mental health counselor, and I own a group counseling practice named called New Vision Behavioral Health Incorporated. We provide mental health and addiction services. I am a native of St. Petersburg, Florida, born and raised. Yes. I have two children, 19, about to be 20, and 13. Yes,
Ooh.
yes. So, obviously I have some birthing stories, but what called me here? Is that what you
So
said?
you the answer to already because it's like, what's your
Okay.
name?
Okay.
Where are you from? And what again brings you into the space?
An opportunity to just unpack a topic that doesn't get discussed or supported as it should, in general, but specifically amongst our people, with us,
Mhm.
with African American people, and it impacts us every day, every minute. But it's not something that we bring light to and we get to have a conversation about. And so, just opportunity to share and to inform and to learn.
I love it. I'm so glad you're here. So today's topic is going to be maternal morbidity. I want to start out before we get started that this is going to be a very touchy subject. This subject is something that's going to really move you in your spaces, and it's going to be a difficult topic. Being in according Courtney is to be in a safe spaces to have these topics. So I want you to be okay with that. Embrace yourself for those types of conversations. Okay. And then when we're doing this conversation, we're moving this conversation out of love and out of education. Okay. And that's really important that people understand that that's what this conversation is layered in. Because when
Yeah.
you leave here today, you're going to have some questions. You're going to be looking at yourself a little different and your family a little
Hmm.
different. And I want you to just be, okay with that and know it's okay to not feel okay about that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. You said it because I remember having this conversation or something closely related, on a different platform where I was expected to be a panel expert in my field.
Mhm.
And I remember just finally acknowledging my own birthing story. I connected with my mom's because it created, the origin of Zanita, but I never really connected with my own traumatic birthing story of um, my first child. So, yeah, that's good advice.
And I'm glad, and I know, whatever is comfortable with, I would love to talk into this. So I want to open up what the difference is between maternal mortality versus maternal morbidity. So maternal mortality is the fact that we have women that are Black Americans that are dying 4 to 5 times their white counterparts, and that is dying during childbirth or right after in postpartum time periods. These women are not or deceased from things that are 99% of times preventable. Now, this is different from maternal morbidity. Maternal morbidity refers to unexpected outcomes of pregnancy, labor, or delivery that has short-term or long-term consequences on a mother's health. For every woman who dies from pregnancy, it is estimated 20 to 30 more experience acute or chronic morbidity. The resulting consequences can affect the person's physical, mental, sexual health, and their social economic status in the United States. The morbidity outcomes are on the rise, and many times they're not even being documented. So this is from the World Health Organization. This was printed back out in 2019. So even then, to think about, that was 2019, think about where we are now from getting through the pandemic. It has that shaped our lives, how the social economics of everything's more expensive now. How are we showing up? So I'm sure these numbers are even higher than what they are here. And so what I want to do is, like, people are like, well, what does that really mean? That's a snapshot, but what is that really saying? So I want to break it down to a way that I feel like, Zania, your story, when I met you on a panel, you explained your birth story of yourself and your daughter, and this really clicked for me what maternal morbidity is. So when we have a child and we give birth, and in the birthing experience, the whole experience was nothing but stressful. I noticed I ended up with high blood pressure, and I ended up with anxiety and depression, that every time I was around the birthing experience or being in the hospital, and I have horrible anxiety now. My birth experience, no one heard me, and I almost died. And then I gave birth to my child. And now, because of it, I have high blood pressure, I have severe anxiety, I have postpartum depression. And now I've implanted that onto my child. And how I shape my child and how I love my child. And this goes back actually to enslavement and the antebellum period, where the history of gynecology was birthed, that enslaved women were forced to birth strapped down to tables, being harmed without medication, and that you had this trauma that was based into them. This is how they gave birth.
And even the way they practiced gynecology back then,
right?
They truly practiced medicine on us,
right? And it's still those same things that were set in place back then are what are used today. If you look in medical journals about how to deal with Black birthing people, is that we're allowed and we can take extreme amounts of pain, and it's okay not to listen to us. So this is the birth of gynecology was done off the trauma of our bodies. And so maternal morbidity has been passed down generation to generation. It's very hard not to meet a Black woman in America when you say, how do you feel about going to the hospital, that you automatically are fearful. That's the first knee-jerk reaction, is I'm scared. Why is that? The history of. So I wanted to hold space to have some really difficult conversations with that. And how, with having a mental health therapist, how do you see that, and have you seen this show up?
When a woman is pregnant, definitely the circumstances around her pregnancy is a huge impact in that, during that pregnancy period, right? If it was an expected pregnancy, if it was an unexpected pregnancy or undesirable pregnancy, if the circumstance, if we already have so many kids and we're struggling and now have more, so the dynamics of inception and the social, economic, or whatever environmental factors that woman has sets the tone for her maternal health, right? Or her maternal experience. So if I'm already starting my maternal experience dealing with stress because this is not what I wanted, not what I expected, or I can't afford to have this child, or this person I'm pregnant from, I'm not even in relationship. Those dynamics set the tone. I know for me, to be transparent, I didn't expect to get pregnant. This was a new relationship I was in. And when I was told I was pregnant, I was shocked. And I'm a grown woman. I was in college actually. I had my whole life planned. I was moving to Texas. I was getting in grad school. I had everything planned. And then when I was told I was pregnant and I knew who that father was, I was devastated. So now that set the tone to have a devastating experience. And then everything that came thereafter, I was severely depressed when I was pregnant. I moved back home because of the suggestions of my family. Oh, you can't do it on your own. That's too much. You might as well move back home. I did it and I regretted every day of that decision. And so here I am now pregnant, and my child is in vitro feeling these stress hormones. So I'm not only feeding her the food I eat, but also the stress I experience, the depression, the fear, the anxiety. My child is getting all that unbeknownst to me. Um, I even signed up for a Healthy Start experience. So I was a part of Healthy Start, and they would send a case manager over there. And they had me do an evaluation, and she asked me if I was depressed. And at that time, I had just graduated my psychology degree. I'm like, no, I'm not gonna acknowledge that. I'm thinking, hell yeah, I'm depressed. But I was too prideful because how dare I? And so I denied my depression throughout my entire pregnancy. Um, Let alone to have a traumatic birthing experience in the hospital when it was time for me to deliver. And so, to go back to the original question, a woman's conception story, excuse me, her maternal treatment. So, if she is connected or not feeling connected to her obstetrician can impact it. The dynamics in her relationship, her home life, her career finances. Some women, they hide their entire pregnancy from their employers. Imagine how stressful that is. I can't even show up, and naturally be pregnant on the job because I could risk losing my livelihood or my career. So those factors that I think are unique to every woman's story impacts the emotional, mental, and maternal health.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that. And a lot of times this has shown up so much in our community and we never talk about it. It'll be like, and
Right.
I see it a lot with my work with moms who have multiple children sometimes, and they're like, how am I going to make it? I'm already
Mm-hmm.
working 5 or 6 12s to take care of them. The father is
Yeah.
left. They're not in this space.
Right.
How is this? And then when I go into the hospital or the doctors, they're not looking at me. They won't even pay me attention. I'm telling them I'm stressed,
Mm-hmm.
or there's like your blood pressure is high, but I'm like, no one's talking about my blood pressure is high because I'm so stressed.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yep. For sure.
And
Yeah.
that, how that's showing up in families. And then also the hard part is like how it shows up in our children,
Mm-hmm.
because
Yeah.
now we're showing them, we do a lot of times what we're taught. And so we have to
Mm-hmm.
look at how our parents were taught. So like the generation before us, they were taught that I love you by nitpicking you and making you perfect because the world has to see you as perfect. You don't have the
Mm-hmm.
opportunity not to be great because of the trauma that I went through birthing you and having you in this world. This is the only way you're going to be able to make it. So
Right.
behind closed
Exactly.
doors, I may harm you by saying hurtful things to make you better versus outwards to other people. I tell everyone how much I love my child and how amazing they are.
Yeah. Or to make you stronger.
Yes.
How many hurtful things, or how much do we have to struggle as children unnecessarily because our parents are wanting to make us stronger? This super independence that we have, well, I don't need anybody, I don't need help. And we come from a generation of community was our thing. But I
Mm-hmm.
think we also fostered this super independence because we were what they call latchkey kids. We were home by
Mm-hmm.
ourselves while our parents were working, babysitting our younger siblings, being responsible for things that honestly we shouldn't have been at a young age. I mean, my daughter, she was like clean. Like, my daughter was a very responsible child. God gave me who he knew I needed because
Mm-hmm.
I was out. in college, I went back to school. I was working a lot. Like I was this growing, emerging professional, and I neglected the needs that my child had at that age because I think I took advantage of her super independence, her responsibility. But
I
that's kind
completely
of like how we raised, our children to be, because it was a hard world.
Absolutely. And it was the safest thing, like, hey, I got to keep you here, but I got to go out because the social economics change. It's like, I have to run like this to make sure you have the life that I want for you because you
Right.
deserve the best. But it is neglectful in the same way. I can say for the same. I am very blessed for my oldest daughter. Me, Jalen, and I, that's my whole heart. She's 15, and we've gone through the muck together. I got pregnant with her when I was 19, had her at 20. Her father left at 7 months and said, she your problem. You figure that out.
Mm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
was devastated because I never thought I would be in those situations. However, due to me being raised by a single parent, I was like, I got this. It's fine. I don't need nothing. And just shielded that pain and absorbed it and just was like, it's okay. I could do this. I can make it. I can make it. And Jalen grew with me. But that's very hard.
Yeah.
She went through nursing school with me. She went through everything with me. So, it was a lot. And she's super independent and she's
Mm-hmm.
super helpful with her sister to the degree that she doesn't need to be. And I've had to
Yeah.
have those conversations with her. I think about 13, we had to have some conversations. I had to sit her down and say, I'm sorry. I'm
Yeah.
so sorry. This was not
Mm-hmm.
okay. I didn't mean to do it. I was trying to make sure your life was great. I was taught that you
Yeah.
deserve everything and this is the way for me to give it to you. But I am sorry. And I had to
Yeah.
readjust my life because I
Mm-hmm.
need her to say, yo, hey, you need to be here. And I'm
Yeah.
thankful for that because that was a shift
Yeah.
that I feel maternal morbidity does to people. You don't realize what's going on most of the time. You're just living it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I think, you, Courtney, being vulnerable and transparent enough to admit, where you fell short and say, I'm sorry. I feel like that switched the track. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Like you changed the trajectory. Because maybe you had a super independent mom who was a hard worker and strong, and that's what she equipped you to be. And you probably was headed down that same road with your daughter, but you being vulnerable enough and say, hey, listen, I didn't do it right or do it like I wanted to, and I'm sorry. I think that probably, like in her mind, like I think that could have created a shift for her, a shift for you all, and a shift for the generations to follow, for sure.
Thank you so much, and I appreciate that. I can say you actually that was nail on the head. My mother is a super independent person. I'm very proud of my mother. Like my mom, I get Toby West her flowers all the time because she became a prosecuting attorney as a single parent. She did everything
Wow.
alone between her and my grandmother. And my mother was the type of person because she was raised by my grandmother, who was a very strong woman who raised 4 children alone. She had an
Mm.
abusive husband, and so he was gone. He would come into the world, do harm, and leave, and that was how he
Mm.
did. So she worked 3, 4 nursing jobs and created group homes and parented the whole community, but it affected her children. But
Yeah.
it taught them to put community first. And
Yeah.
and that was the deal. Communities first. But those
Yep.
other things of how you're super independent, I could go save the world and work real hard, you'll be all right.
Mm.
And
Ouch. I'm gonna say ouch. I'm
and
gonna
it's
say ouch. Yeah,
that's
that was
tough.
that was me at one point. Me being this new emerging therapist, and I got this new emerging black-owned counseling business, and the world is calling on me and recognizing me for do this, help my child here, help my child. And finally, it took my children, me seeing them start to fall apart on their own and unravel on their own. I said, I refuse to show up for everybody else and everybody else's child but my own. I
Ab-
refuse to help other people's children be healthier than my own. And I had
Absolutely.
to really I had to, I had to come back and really focus on the family,
Mhm.
over family over the community, over church. I had a mom who church was priority. We were priority too, but
Mhm.
y'all going to church, and the church got a lot of her time and attention. And by the time she
Absolutely.
got to us, she was exhausted. She was exhausted.
And same family, same thing. Church was everything for my grandmother. Her children were raised in church. She worked all the time. She was exhausted. She gave what she had to give, but to give her best, that was her best. And my
Yep.
mom, she was a top cop. She was what, sheriff. She was the poster child. And then she became attorney. She was the poster child. Everybody knew Toby West. And to live behind that was very like, oh. And then I did it again with myself. I emerged as this person doing this work. But it made me stop and look at my children, and it's like, stop. And it was my own children unraveling. I was like, you know what? Who do I love most? And I watched even in my own career, because I've watched so many birth workers. What we don't talk about is we have one of the highest rates of divorce.
Wow.
Because we're gone so often and having so many issues with our own children, because we show up so much for other people. We're gone 24 hours, 48 hours, 5 days, because we're showing up for the other parts of the community. And so therefore our children, lose out on us. You leave on birthdays, Christmas. I've left on my daughter's birthday party. I'm so sorry, baby. I got to go because I got to go do a birth.
Wow.
That's a lot. And so to change that maternal morbidity, because I realized that in myself, I had to do two things. I turned and apologized to my daughter, but then I turned to my mother and said, you know what? I see you. And I thank you for doing the best that you knew to do. And to giving her that flowers, because she also turned to me. I could have done things differently, but it took me coming to her saying, let's talk, because you are the best grandmother that I could ever want as a mother, because you turned changes for your grandchildren. She is the best grandmother I could ever ask for.
Yeah, same here. Like my mom showed up when I went through my divorce from my daughter's dad. Like my mom showed up and she filled in the gaps. It was hard for my daughter to, that separation. And she filled in the gaps physically, emotionally. Even after I gave birth, like she took my baby for a while. I think that's why I did not end up with postpartum, because I had that support to show up and help me not be overwhelmed. So we had that kindred support. But yeah, they were able to turn it around and show up differently for our children.
Absolutely.
And sometimes we just have to say thank you. Thank you for that.
And I feel like our parents are the generation that really changed that. Because I could say for my daughter, the oldest one, I was at FAM. I was at college. I was living my life. I just knew I was.
Courtney, I didn't know you went to FAM.
Yes, honey. I was a rattler all the way, honey. Yes.
Okay, rattler.
Yes, I loved it. I wanted to go there. I knew I was going to do theater. I knew I was going to change the world because I had something to say. And then I got pregnant with my daughter, and I was so heartbroken to come home because I thought I was coming home as a failure.
Yeah.
And
same.
I moved in with my grandmother and my mother, and they, nurtured me. I had to come home. Like coming home was important. My grandmother was having surgery, and I needed to be in the spaces with my women. And I thought, I'm a disappointment because my mom had me in college, and I was like, I didn't want to be that. But coming home healed so many things in me, because I went back up into Tallahassee to give birth to my child, and I had the support from home and they had my support up there. But when I realized the support was not there with my child's father, everything, it was simple, come home. And I came home, and how I watched them show up for my daughter. Oh my gosh. It made me love them so much deeper, and realize the things they were saying, they didn't say to my daughter. They didn't come at her. They didn't love her out of the things that wounding I had, they never did to them. And now to have those conversations with them, like, hey, when you're coming into her, you kind of come at her like you did me. Let's talk about it, and being susceptible to it, because they're like, I love my grandbaby so much, I would never want to.
I did say I had to have that same conversation with my mom, because my mom was as hard as she is stickler, like you said, that pull you apart and pick everything. And like that's how my mom was, because she knew the world that she was putting me out there to,
Right.
But it did me a disservice in some areas, in some ways. But she didn't do that with my daughter. And when she did with my daughter or my son, I would say, Mom, like, can we not do that? Can we not say that? Or okay, I would become a buffer, and I would explain, like, I don't really want you to say those things or whatever, because this is how it made me feel, and we don't want to do that. And she got it. She got it.
Absolutely. And I feel that's such a beautiful thing. And that's how you're able to change maternal morbidity and make sure that that's not a thing. It's about having those very hard discussions with our children, because our children see everything. So even like if it
Mhm.
shows up physical, mental, social, emotional, they take on those
Mhm.
characteristics.
Mhm.
I know with my second child, I had severe depression, and I had severe postpartum depression afterwards, and high anxiety and PTSD from her birthing experience, because it was so traumatic,
Wow.
how it showed up in her. And I have to remind her all the time that she's amazing, she's immaculate, and it doesn't matter, but also be aware of, whoa, I did that.
Mhm.
I did that.
Yeah.
I did that. I didn't
Yeah.
mean to do that, but I did
Yeah.
that, and to hold myself accountable for that. So therefore, when I raise her, what am I not going to do to her now?
That's right. Yeah. 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 I certainly can connect to that. I think I used more tougher language of myself. Like it was a really tough season for my daughter recently, and she was just kind of unpacking some of her poor decisions and just some of her experiences in general and traumas. And it was something she was spewing, and I was just like, I broke her, so I gotta fix her. But I said, but thank God I have the capacity and the knowledge of how to do that. Thank God
Absolutely.
I'm in a healthier space within myself to show up for her. And I don't mean literally fix her or literally break her, but I meant I caused a lot of this knowingly or unknowingly, willingly or unwillingly, by omission or commission. I caused a lot of this. So it's my responsibility to help her heal.
Absolutely. And I love how Sophia put it. Having those conversations is not easy for me with my mom, even at my age. There's a lot of fear, judgment based on culture, religion, and expectations to this day. Absolutely. These are not
Yeah.
easy conversations. These are conversations that are not happening. There will be a buffer in between. You always hear in the Black community, mothers and daughters have issues and they don't get along, and which is not really what it is. It's the way that we're choosing to love, and how we look at love is different. It's that standpoint. I have to harm you before the world harms you. I gotta
Mm,
beat it into you so you understand, because I love you
mhm.
so much, because I want you to be great. That's what
Yeah.
that is, and
I'm only
understanding.
hard on you because I love you, you
Right. It's
know.
like I need
Mhm.
you to understand, if I'm not hard on you, I don't love you. What is
Mhm.
it? Spare the rod, spoil the child. Like that's really been a beat-in process, but you have to think about, where did that come from? And that
Right.
we're the new generation of saying, no, you're not. We're not gonna do this. We're not gonna do
Mhm.
this. You're not doing this with my children. You're not doing this with me. But I love you, and I
Right.
see you. I
Right.
understand your hurt, and I am okay to be there. And in our culture, it's like, no, I can't. I got to be a rock. I got to be this. I can't. I can't show that type of vulnerability.
Yep. So
And
true.
I think it's kind of coming with age. I can say for myself, it came with age of being older and doing this work, doing birth work, being in space with
Yeah.
other people's families, and watching the dynamics of watching their children give birth and having their fears of saying, I don't want to be close to my child during their birth because of all the fears and traumas I had. I don't want to put them on my kid. And then in turn, the mother is feeling like, why would my mother not support me? Why is she so standoffish? I really need her. And then watching the dynamic and having to explain, she's loving you by staying away because she's afraid to put her trauma on you. It's not that she don't want to be there for you. She just knows what has happened to her, and she doesn't want to make that part of your
Mhm.
story.
Mhm.
And it made
Yep.
me have to look back and be like, hey, pause.
Yes.
Why did you choose to do XYZ with my own mother, and to have her have that? Like, I called her before I started this show, and I was like, hey, I got some questions. Like, if you would have had a different birth experience, would you have had more children? She said, if I had a different birth partner, I would have had a different experience. If I had different
Wow.
socioeconomics, I would have had different experience. She's like, I needed someone who's going to show up for me the way you needed to be shown up for. I needed to
Yeah.
be in a space that you deserved everything you could. And so when the realness caught in of, this is all I have and this is all on me, I knew for
Yeah.
me as a parent, this is what I could give you. And if someone else
Yeah.
can't get this, there ain't gonna be no more. And I was like,
Right. Wow. That's big. That's self-awareness, introspection. Like, yeah, that's big. That's good for her for saying that. I mean, I wanted more kids, Courtney. I wanted 5 kids. I
mhm,
wanted 5 kids, but I married wrong. didn't have what it took to be in healthy relationship, choose healthy partners, or be a healthy partner. So therefore, 2 divorces later. So the life that I thought I was going to have did not give me the opportunity to have more kids. Even though my birthing experience was very traumatic, I was like, oh, I don't know if I really want to do this again. Like, it was hard for me, my second child, because I remember how traumatic the first experience was. But my heart, I wanted a big family. I didn't come from a big family. It was just my brother and I. I wanted a big family, but the circumstances didn't offer me that opportunity, you know? And if I would have had them back then, I wasn't half as healthy of a person back then that I am now. And so now I'm like, okay, now I got a lot of awareness. I have the tools. But now I'm 42, unmarried, you know what I'm saying? And I'm like, I don't want to do it single. And so, you know, just sometimes we have to realize that, yeah, we may have wanted our lives to be a certain type of way or have a certain type of family system, and we don't. And, you know, and kind of accept and grieve over that reality and that truth. I don't know where that came from. I think that was off topic, but
no, but actually it's completely on topic, because that is maternal morbidity, because of those things, because of the choices, because of the things. And why do we pick? Because I can say I did all of those things. I did what my mother did. She married wrong. She picked the wrong person. She wasn't ready for it. They were in the right spaces, so there was me. I did it twice. I was in a relationship with my first one in college, and I was married with my second one and married wrong. I didn't make the right choices. I wasn't emotionally aware enough of a person to see why I picked the wrong people, or I picked people who needed certain things or were unhealthy themselves because of their old things that they didn't get to unpack as children. So
you better preach.
You know, it was two unhealthy people who never got to unpack and grieve. And I can say with myself, ooh, all right, we're going to do this today. So for myself, the trauma of giving birth to my second child, I had a seizure. The doctor didn't show up. My husband at the time and my mom were there for the birth of my child. And the trauma that came with her, with my high blood pressure, my sickness, I ended up being epileptic. It caused me to be like, I was so fearful I never want to have children again. And so I went in for a medical procedure that is these insurers that Medicaid was paying for at the time. I thought it was something that would be a temporary fix. So my doctor didn't explain to me that she was sterilizing me. And so I realized, because I was in such deep depression and such deep fear, I was like, I need a 5-year break before this ever happens again, because I don't want to make a mistake of having to bring somebody into where I'm at right now, because I had such severe postpartum. But then when the fog let off, because I didn't know what was wrong with me, my daughter was 6 months when I called my doctor, and I'm like, I've been walking around the park for the last 4 hours. I can't stop screaming and crying. What's going on with me? He's like, you have postpartum. You have severe postpartum. And then when the fog cleared, I was like, hey, what did I do to my body? Why am I so sick? What is happening? And because I come to find out, the Essure, my body was allergic to it. So I had to have it removed, and I lost both ways. I can't reproduce. So I didn't know I was sterilizing myself. And then through the trauma of that birth and everything else, I had to have, a part of myself removed. So I'm sterile. And so now that I'm in this space in my life, I'm 36, and I could, have the love of my life of who I would want to grow this family right. I picked the right person. I picked the right stuff. Yeah. That's not my reality.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. That's deep. And I'm sorry that happened to you, that when you were in a dark place, you sought medical support, and instead they gave you an experience that changed the trajectory of your life.
I feel like that happens. Thank you for that. But it happens a lot in our work, in our community. And this is actually what really drove me into coming into this work, because I didn't want my birth experience and trauma to be anyone else's. Because with my first child, it wasn't like that. But I was in Tallahassee. I was in a loved experience. I really had a lot. But here in St. Pete, I was married. I did it the right way. But there was no support. There was no anything. And so, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what this was. I didn't know what it was. And I was fearful to talk to my family, because I'm like, well, my grandmother raised 4 children. She did it. She never had these problems. My mom raised me, and she didn't have these problems. Like, there must be something wrong with me. I must not be woman enough to be a parent to these children. And that was morbidity. It took me going through that to my grandmother showing up and saying, that's not true. No, I went through a lot. I suffered a lot. Please don't think that because if we put that on you, we are sorry. My mom did the same thing. She
Mm-hmm.
said, "Oh no, 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 no! It was so hard. It was so traumatic. I'm so sorry. You make us think that that's what we put the trajectory on you. Just grin and bear it. That's not true." And they loved me through that, and
Yeah, that's good. Wow,
that's
wow,
how I
wow.
seen it show up.
Now, Courtney, this gives me an idea of why your passion looks the way it looks. Like you help me get to know you a little bit more every time we talk because of your experience. And I always say trauma or tragedy can drive you in two directions. It could drive you crazy or it could drive you towards your passion or purpose. And you allowed your trauma to drive you towards your passion and purpose to help other women not be in the same situation. But even more importantly, for me as a professional, I work with pregnant mothers of women who have just recently had kids, and I was looking at the relationship, the professional relationship, and on the business side. I'm like, how can we touch these women sooner? Because by the time they get to me, they're not interested in services anymore. They were like, "Oh, I asked for that months ago. I'm okay now." But who knows what decision that woman made during that time of her not being okay, like to your experience, to where what did she sign up for? What decision did she make that could possibly have changed her life in not the best or healthiest way? And so getting to these women soon, early, getting the intervention so that way they don't make decisions that they'll regret. So that way they're not put in situations that could cause long-term harm or impact is so important. It's so important.
Absolutely,
Yeah, your advocacy is remarkable because that maternal morbidity isn't just in the form of high blood pressure or health concerns or health risks. It's mental, social, emotional, mental risks that are also involved post delivery or post, I
the
can't use the word,
postpartum period, and so
postpartum. Yep.
it does, and I appreciate that. You know, fun part, like my mom has all the answers. She's like, this is a conversation that should be had in 10th grade. This should be had before we're being sexually active about important how much our wounds are and about what family planning really means. If where do
Yeah.
you want your trajectory of your life? If you think you want to have kids, what does that look like? How do you want to show up with your social economics? How are you showing up with your mental health? How are you showing up with your physical health? And then we start teaching that then. So that's normal. So if you know how
Yeah.
to have a job, you know how to make money, you know how to grow up and you go through high school, this should be taught throughout that, hey, if you want to do these things in life, make sure that you're good first. What does that
Mm-hmm.
good look like? Am I good mentally? So have a mental health therapist. How are you showing up with your physical health? How are you nurturing your body? How are we feeding our souls? And how are we taking care of ourselves and teaching that into our daughters at such a young age that when it is time to date, you're in a whole different space to be in there. I can say for my daughter, and it's funny to me, she's like, I don't know if I may not date till college. I said, why? Well, I know where my standards are and I know where I want someone to meet me. Most people aren't developed enough until college or afterwards to be there. So why put myself in a situation where we're both not ready for that and things can happen? When I'm looking at her, I'm like, oh,
I know that's right. The
what you
wisdom.
say?
Okay.
I was just looking, I'm like, okay, say some more. And I'm trying to not freak her out, but I'm like, okay.
Thank you.
So what
She had a trauma I had. Thank you. She'll make better decisions. I
she
did. Oh,
right. And she's so
I did
open with
something
it.
right.
She's
Yes.
like I talk to my friends, I'm like, please don't be having sex. And if you are, you need to be having conversation because I know what it looks like. I've had a 17-year-old teenager live in our house and my mom taking care of her and we're helping her with her baby. I've seen what this looks like. I know what the services are and they're not there. So I suggest you not do this to yourself. And I'm like,
Yes. Oh, good
okay,
for her.
I did this
Yes.
right. And it
You
makes you,
did that right. Yes.
and
We
it's,
and we can. We could start wrong and end right. Like we could go
yes.
midway. It's never too late to say, "Hey, I messed up," or "Hey, I should do it differently." Sophia said, "There's a lot of points we sharing, and she need a call in line." I think Sophia got some questions she
And I
want to
definitely
ask.
want to hit on some of her questions. I know we haven't taken like a break period of time because I want to touch on what she's saying. What advice is the best time and place to get started with that conversation? I have desires to find the right place for the safe place of both of us. I can say for my daughters, when I started so early on, like I started so early on with both of my children because of how I showed up with my children. It took me having my second child, having severe postpartum depression, being completely broken, losing all of my hair from stress, everything, for me to look at my children and say, "You're watching everything I'm doing, aren't you?" Shit, that's a problem. Because I'm like, okay. And it made me look at them and look at what I was doing and how it was showing up in them individually. And I'm like, I don't want that for my children. And that's when it started. And I will have to say, that must have been my youngest was 4. No, I'll give it a little bit, about 5. She was about 5 years old when I started with her, and my youngest was in her about 12 or so. And we started having those conversations of me really taking accountability. And it really started in the pandemic for us, because we had that time and that space to really sit and really be with each other, so they could really see me and I could really see them. So I would say, when you're in a safe space, and I can say I did a lot of work on myself, and I would say do the work on yourself before you open that can of worms. Because if you're not in a healthy space, don't be coming for nobody unless you're ready to get come for. So you better get all the way right. So I say do the work on yourself and be open and ready to receive whatever it comes. I've had to receive some tough stuff from my kids.
Yes, that's so true, Courtney. When my daughter and I had that conversation, I had done a lot more work, and so I had, I wasn't as sensitive to my mistakes. I wasn't as sensitive to my poor decisions. I had learned how to take accountability for where I fell short. So I had to get to that phase, so that way when she mirrored everything that I had done, and she brought up what life with me was like at certain points, I had the strength to sit there and listen, because I had already digested that for myself. I wasn't in denial. And with my mom, when I wanted to have that conversation with my mom, as far as, hey, like, this is what it was like at times, I could not make her be ready, and I couldn't wait for her to be ready either. It was something that I needed to do. But at the same time, I recognized it was important for me not to be in a place to where I was still vulnerable to what she could have said that could have been hurtful or not validating. I had to realize that my motives had to be right. I wasn't trying to be harmful or hurtful. I really wanted to come with her with love. And so I had to make sure I was in a place within myself that I wasn't resentful or angry, that I could come to her with love and say, hey, listen, this is what it was like for me. This is how I felt. This is how I feel. So that way she could hopefully be receptive to the information. Yeah, but I couldn't wait for her to be ready.
Absolutely. And I can say the same thing for myself. I had to really make sure I was coming out of love, because I know in the past I had come, but I was not ready. I was in a hurt and angry space versus more of a healed space and more of an understanding space. And also being able to really see her as a person. And I feel like a lot of times we don't see our mothers, our grandmothers as people. We said, that's my mama. Okay. But no. She is someone outside of your mother. She is this. She has her backstory. She's had her own trauma. She's had her own things. And to be able to say, you know what? You're talking to me, not really because you're talking to me. You're talking to me out of your own trauma right now. You're talking to me out of your own fears. You're projecting, but you're not meaning to. That's how you're trying to protect. And you're also trying to protect yourself. And that's okay. And so I have to change the way I'm coming at you, because you match. I know, like, listen, I explain to people all the time, I am the wilder version of Toby West. Like, I'm the one who will come with you.
I gotta meet Toby West.
My mother is fascinating. She's like, when you meet her, she's like, oh. She's like,
she gives you the, her.
You've met my mom. She's like, gives you the attorney stare. She's very classy. She's very, you can't play with my mama. That's just the thing. You're not trying to play with her.
That. Yeah, I can see that.
Your life. Okay. And then, but at the same time, being raised with, it was tough because I was like, ugh. But the difference between me, I was one who showed my emotions and moved in those types of passions and moved in those things. But I give her that space. She gave me that space to be me. And that was something that was very different. She allowed me, she's like, I'm going to take you to the mosque. I'm going to take you to the temple. I'm going to take you here. I want you to see everything. I want you to
Wow, that's
be
good.
attached to everything. She had me, she was a Black woman studies major, and I had a lot to do with it because I just learned so early on the wholeness of being a Black woman, the power of your womb. So I had a very
Wow.
different kind of mom. So I had to look at it for as a child, as yelling and screaming and having all these educational, emotional points. I took to an adult to be like, what gift she gave me. I was raised by a community of women. So
Yeah, that's good.
I had six mamas, and it was such a beautiful thing that I was like, I didn't realize that until I had my own children. And that's what I gave to them and give to them. So they have that security. Because I was never independent. There was always someone in the pack that I could get that emotional tap in from. I had my godmother, I had
Mm,
my grandmother. So my mom could be the strong, powerful person she was. But if I
that's
needed someone to
good.
hug me and squish me up, I could go to my grandmother and know that those needs are being met. Same with my children, where I fall short. I listen, my kids will tell you quick, Toby West is coming. Please don't play with her. Call my
Right,
mama before you call my grandma. Please don't
right.
call my grandma first because they both come in and they both coming at you in two different kind of ways. So I
Wow.
appreciate it.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
So I love this. So in your opinion, how can men be more supportive in this space? That's a beautiful question. Men can be supportive in this space by doing the same thing. There's so much work that they have. Has anyone ever impacted themselves? Have you checked in yourself? Because even how we come in relationships, we bring what we were born with into it. A lot of times we'll have these young men who are brilliant, bright young men who were lived in a single parent household and had to deal with the traumas and morbidities of that. So it's about unpacking that and having those honest conversations in marriages. I wish I would have done that. I wish we could have really sat in those spaces. It's like, let's unpack this so we can decide what type of parents we want to really be.
Yeah, I would even say to that, I ditto what you said about, men kind of doing their own work and looking at their relationships, their maternal relationships and what that was like, with the first woman of their life. And even how they show up for women now, or their wife, or their children's mom, or even their daughter,
Mm-hmm.
because your daughter may one day be your mother. And to have her father come alongside and support her in a masculine way, and with love and attention, I think is really impactful. um, I think the dynamics, between men and women are strained, and they certainly need healing. I was watching, I was something on Instagram, and Blueface, the saga Blueface and Christian. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So he tweeted, like, how do you expect me to be connected to my child when you left me out of the entire experience? You didn't have me in the labor and delivery. You gave him your name. Like, he was just talking about the disconnect, but yet you expect me to show up and now be this connected father. And I don't always be feeling Blueface and Chris Ann or what they got, but that was like facts, like hashtag ouch. Like, that's true. You know what I'm saying? Like, we as women have to be mindful of, either we want them a part of it or we don't, you
Right.
know, and we can't do this back and forth, or this, using this baiting because of our emotions, or because we're not getting what we want. At the end of the day, it's important for us to be supported by the fathers of the the children we're having, whether we're pregnant or we've given birth to them. It's important. And it's important that we have somewhat of a amicable relationship so we can co-parent, or I can at least have a healthy pregnancy. That's not a
Absolutely.
stressor for me. Our relationship won't have to be a stressor.
Facts. And I feel like that's the main thing for men to show up. It doesn't matter if you're together or not. It's just for this pregnancy time, you want to bring her peace because whatever you put onto her, you're putting onto your child. And so,
Absolutely.
to deal with your traumas, deal with your stuff because it shows up so much. I can say for it as a young woman who was not raised with her father, and then to be raising two children whose fathers are not in the household, and
Yeah.
having that, how that shows up for them and how
Yeah.
they perceive men in those spaces. You guys are so important For men,
Right.
for young boys, you are their first person of their model, who they may want to be. And for young women, you are who they end up marrying, if
That's
you're
right.
there or not. And if you're not there, and they've known only trauma that you have shown their mothers, or
Right.
you weren't able to be there, period, it affects. Versus the same if you do show up and you are there and you listen and you're loving and you're supportive, who they pick will match what they've seen and what they've been taught. So
That's
you're
right.
just as important in this conversation of maternal morbidity, because it affects you just the same. Because how were you shown up? How were you reared? What do you have to unpack? What things did your mother have to go through to put onto you? And how are you going to show it with your kids? And the thing is to talk about it with your partner. You have these conversations before we're even conceiving. You know, like when you're on the date and you're like, yo, what's up? What you like? What's your colors? Everything. Yo, what's your birth trauma? Let's talk about this. What's your taxes? Like, I need to know.
I
what
gotta
you
add that
did.
to the list. I need to add that
Listen,
to the list. What's your birth trauma?
Listen,
That's a good question.
what's your
In
birth
the
trauma?
single world, what's your birth trauma? Well, I'm not single right now, but still, I have to ask my
Add that
boyfriend
to the
question.
list, because even if your relationships, usually you don't even have that conversation until pregnancy comes up. So it's like, how are we going to rear these children? Even when you co-parent, you're coming from different spaces of, this is how I'm raising my children through the traumas of what I went through, and maybe what their other parent went through, and then what you're coming with. If you don't talk about these, how are we making these changes? We want to get away from maternal morbidity. Again, we're hitting 20 to 30% of times that are documented, to 45 times the rates of the white counterparts. Black people are dying. So now we have 20 to 30% parts that are documented, but it's probably even more than that. So how do you change this? Before conception, let's have these conversations. And if the baby is here, let's have these conversations. Let's do this work and think about how we are now. If someone could raise us differently, what would it be? And let's be the change and be the difference.
That's good. That's good. I think Veep trying to give us a message.
You probably is. I think I see the pair. Hey, go ahead. We sorry.
We gotta apologize. This was actually a very important topic that needed to be discussed. So I didn't want to stop the flow, but I got a business to run still.
Absolutely. We got to do the things.
So listen, thank you everyone for tuning in. Great topic, ladies. Even me as a male, I'm enjoying this, so I appreciate the information. The artist we have for tonight is one of Blast's favorites. This is Demi Day, and this is called Be Like You.
Everybody can't reach like, everybody can't dream like, everybody can't be like, everybody can't be like you. Everybody can't reach like, and everybody can't dream like, everybody can't be like, everybody can't be like you. I understand you got your own thing going, merely on down the stream, you better keep on rowing. They try to knock your self-esteem, you better keep on glowing. Don't let nobody in between that future you be knowing. So here's my message to you: ain't no person on earth that can outdo you. Be yourself unto yourself, you'll be honored that you knew you. Only you can be your rock when it ain't no one else around. And if you don't love yourself, then the only way is down. But I believe in you, I see you got some dreams in you. Full speed ahead, I see you got some steam in you. Just keep chugging away, be grateful for every day that you get to bless the world with such a beautiful face. Let your shadow make the chase, let your heart dictate the pace, let your mind give you the strength, and let your spirit run the race. I bet your ancestors cheering, seeing the path you clearing. Nothing worth fearing, every lesson worth hearing. But every now and again they try to break you. Lean into them wounds even though they might be painful. And when they heal the scars, that's when you gon' see a breakthrough. I'm praying that you make do with every resource world's within your grasp. Multiply it forth and be generous with your math. Kindness in your hand, willing to understand that every single second you get is another dance, and every single moment you breathe is another chance to do something you love, to always rise above. Parting for the past, don't let that trauma beat you up. Be gentle with your mental and everything you done been through. End of the day, you're the reason I grabbed a pencil, so I could draw you up a motivational stencil, tracing the inspiration, make way for the destination. 'Cause trust me, I can see all of the places that you're headed, and I'm here to let you know you ain't gonna never reach a dead end. Everybody can't reach like, everybody can't dream like, everybody can't be like, everybody can't be like you. Everybody can't reach like, and everybody can't dream like, everybody can't be like, everybody can't be like you.
Yes, indeed. And that is Demi Day. And that is the song that's called Be Like You. And if you are an independent artist or a spoken word poet, or even an up and coming comedian looking for some exposure, you can go to blastmusic247.com and register for free. But here's the thing, Blast also needs the fans. So if you're a fan of music, definitely go to blastmusic247.com and register as a fan and have access to hundreds and hundreds of independent music at your grasp. So that's Blast, changing the industry one artist at a time. Now, before I head out, I want to let you know that this right here is sponsoring a part of our show as well as with Blast. Broken Treasure is a CD that is coming out called You Hold the Key. There are various artists from George Clinton from Parliament, Big Mountain, The Outsiders, even actress Danielle Busati and Corey Feldman and many others who are creating a CD which is going for the education, for prevention, and the rescuing of kids being trafficked. So there'll be more information on this coming up. As a matter of fact, the founder of this nonprofit organization will be on Implosion this Thursday. Her name is Miss Andy Berger, so definitely check me out and her out. And I'm out. Love y'all.
Love you so much.
Yeah. I was feeling that song, Be Like You.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that. And just what that awareness brings, giving space for your mental, letting you show up.
And appreciating your authenticity,
Yes.
wounds and all, right? Like wounds and all, I'm still unique. I'm still important. I'm still valuable.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I feel like that's such a great way to we're hitting up that 11 card spot. How to end in that is like that authenticity of who I am, all flaws and all, that I am good, I am great, and that we can show up as great people, as great mothers, as great grandmothers and aunts, and as fathers and as sons. We can show up authentically and be beautiful. We don't have to let the morbidity of others or of ourselves choose how we will show up in this world.
That's right. And despite, the way we got it wrong, despite the health implications that that we received as a result of our maternal story, it's still our story, and we still gave birth to life. We still went through the process, and some unfortunately didn't make it out, and some unfortunately didn't give birth to life. It still holds value in our lives, and we want to hold space for those people, who had traumatic birth stories, who've had maternal mortality or morbidity, that you still have value. Your story matters. Your experience matters. You matter. You are not your experience. It is never too late to change the trajectory. You are not too jacked up, too broken, too messed up, too traumatized to turn it around. Healing is around the corner. You want to do it again. It's okay to want to do it again. If you've lost 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 children, it's okay as long as your body has the capacity to do it, to try it again. There are women like Courtney out there who are passionate about what they do, who believe in life and believe in helping women experience the best maternal experience. There are people like me who come alongside Courtney and you and say, hey, let me hear what happened. How can I support you? How can we turn this around? How can we heal? How can we move forward? And so I appreciate these conversations because it lets people know they're not alone, and let people know that we see you, and these are things to be mindful of.
Absolutely. Yeah. And thank you so much for saying all those. It really sums up all the things to say. It's like, you are wonderful. You're immaculate.
Yeah.
Flaws and all. And through all these situations, we don't have to be the trauma.
That's
we can
right.
better from the trauma. Don't let that face of who you are. And through even the most painful circumstances, something beautiful can come from it. So don't let that be the trajectory. And the most beautiful part about it is that doesn't have to be your child's trajectory. Just because we went through it doesn't mean that we got to give it.
Yeah, that's right. That's right, Courtney.
So I love it. And thank you guys for coming in for According to Courtney for such a powerful and courageous conversation to have. I know it's not an easy one, but take some time, look at yourself, and then also give yourself some space of healing today. Sit with yourself and say, you know what? I might have gone through these trials and tribulations. These things might have happened to me, but at the same time, I am loved, I am infinite, and I am deserving of healing.
That's right. Yep. And you are safe.
You are safe. You are safe. So I'm looking forward to you guys coming and seeing me next week. Another show, different topic. But every time I hope you leave with your cup full. Thank you. I'm so glad you guys enjoyed the podcast. And again, thank you, Ms. Anita, for coming with us. And again, let everyone know how to find you. And so that my son is trying to play with me right now. That's how I know we done. But how do they find you if they're looking for therapy or needs? How can they reach you?
Sure. Again, the name of my practice is New Vision Behavioral Health. We're in St. Pete, Tampa, and soon to be Clearwater in Texas. You can find us at www.newvisionbehavioralhealth.com. Again, that's newvisionbehavioralhealth.com. You can call us at 727-687-0997.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you again, Sanita. And you're always welcome on According to Courtney. I always enjoy having you in the space.
Oh, good.
I love
Courtney, bring me on.
Yes, honey. Yes, there'll be more conversations that we need all on hands and all deck. So I thank you guys for holding space with us today. Again, I hope you're leaving with your cup being full and that you're just leaving with some great reflection. So you guys, I thank you, and you guys have a great day.
Yes.
All right.